Yo, what is up, guys? So we're here today to do another guide on our Frost Mage. It's been requested from the video that we previously did on our survival guide to the pre-patch for Frost Mage. So thank you very much, guys, for all of the likes on the video. Thank you very much for the new subs. I really appreciate it, guys. We're still pushing for that 1,000 subscribers. So again, a gigantic thank you to everybody who's smashing that sub button and spending time watching the videos. I really do appreciate it, and I hope they're helping you out big time. But today we're here to cover a requested video in one of the comments to the previous video, and we're going to look at your pre-patch DPS rotation guide for your Frost Mage. So, a couple of things that we need to remember when we're playing Frost Mage. Okay, one of the big rules of playing your Frost Mage is that you never just cast your flurry into a double Ice Lance. Okay, the reason for that being is that we have a shatter debuff that we put on our target. Okay, so anytime you get a flurry proc, it's important to remember that you're going to Frostbolt, flurry, Ice Lance, Ice Lance. So what you're going to do in any scenario in your rotation, for your basic rotation, not including your frozen orb and weaving in your blizzards and using your blizzard effectively to line up your GCDs with your rune of power, etc. We'll get into that later. Your basic rotation is going to be, you're going to Frostbolt any Ice Lance procs that you get, you're going to fire them off. But when you get a flurry, you're going to Frostbolt, flurry, Ice Lance, Ice Lance. Because your flurry travels faster than your Frostbolt. And it's important to remember this. You want your flurry to hit the target before your Frostbolt. Given that flurry travels faster than Frostbolt, that rule only applies depending on your proximity to your target. Okay? So, we'll go into that when we get into gameplay. Your proximity is important to remember, because if you're standing right on top of the target, well then your Frostbolt isn't going to hit the target first. In that scenario, you would cast your flurry, Ice Lance, Ice Lance. Okay, so the next big thing to remember about playing your Frost Mage is one of the simplest things, and I see it happen a lot, is people allowing their intellect buff to drop off. Always refresh it. Refresh it before every single pull. It's a good habit. No one's ever moaning at you for missing it that way. Okay? Any other DPS aids you have, especially for your raid environment, make sure you're using them. Because again, you don't want anybody moaning at you about it. So, let's take a look at what your basic rotation is going to look like. Okay, so let's get into the game and take a look at what we're going to do. Right, so here we are. We're in Dalaran Hall of the Guardian. Okay, so there's one thing that I want to check out just before we go into our main rotation, checking your racials. Okay, now for a troll mage like me, I'm just hovered over the tooltip like I have done in previous videos. I have a 3-minute CD on my berserking, which lines up perfectly with my 3-minute CD of Icy Veins. Ergo, that's why I play troll. I have no downtime on my racial. I get maximum uptime from it because my main CDs are perfect alignment. Okay, so you're going to macro that with your Icy Veins. Okay. If anybody wants a video or a guide on macros and how to use them on your Frost Mage, please again hit me up in the comments and I will be happy to accommodate. Right, so now let's take a look at your basic rotation. Okay, like I said, you're going to start with your Frostbolt. Okay, so we're going to Frostbolt. Flurry. So we're going to Frostbolt, fire off that Ice Lance. Frostbolt into Flurry, Ice Lance, Ice Lance. Again, Frostbolt before the Flurry, and then after every Flurry, 2 Ice Lances. So this is your very basic DPS guide. This is where you're going to get the maximum amount of DPS from your basic rotation. You're going to fire those off. They will in turn fire your icicles. Now, not getting really many flurry procs here, but again, Frostbolt before your flurry. And a flurry, Ice Lance, Ice Lance. Okay? So that's your very basic guide on how it's going to work for you. Again, this is, like I said previously, proximity based. So I'm going to get a flurry proc, okay? Right? So my Frostbolt is hitting the target after the flurry. But in this scenario, my Frostbolt hits before the flurry. So I'm not benefiting from the shatter. Okay? Now, arguably you could say, but Craigs, we get to fire 2 ice lances. Yes, you do. So, in the scenario that you're gonna be doing that, that's where your proximity comes in. Okay? In my opinion, it will be better to use your double ice lance after you flurry. Okay? But again, it's going to be proximity based. There's going to be scenarios where you have no choice. You're so close to the target for whatever reason that is what you're going to do. So, with that in mind, go ahead and cast your flurry. Do what feels right to you. But to me, this is going to be the best way to get the damage out of your Frost Mage. Okay? So, now we're going to look at what your opener is going to look like. Okay? So, your opener is going to consist of your precasted Frostbolt, remembering that Icy Veins automatically pops a rune on the floor. Okay, so you will not Frostbolt rune. You know, it's the same concept as we had playing Fire in BFA. You would have precast your Fireball, you would have cast your Rune of Power, you would have got your Pyro proc and popped all your good stuff. Okay, we're not going to do that because we only get to cast 1 Rune of Power. So if you cast it after you Frostbolt, you have essentially lost 40% of the damage of your burst CD because the duration of Rune of Power is 15 seconds. So we're hovering over the tooltip again, but your Icy Veins lasts for 30 seconds, which is extended by some of your Azurite traits, etc, etc, etc. So you want your Rune of Power to be up for the full duration of your Icy Veins to benefit from the damage buff while you have your active burst cooldowns on the target. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the burst rotation now. We're going to add in our Frozen Orb. We're going to add in our Condensed Life Force. The way I do it may not suit everybody. It's not gospel. Just do whatever suits you best. Okay, so I like to precast. I like to pop all my CDs. Some people will prefer to pop the orb and or the Azurite essence before they use their Icy Veins. Okay, which is perfectly fine. Just whatever works best for you. It's the pre-patch. No one's gonna shoot you for losing 20 DPS. Okay? So I will do what I'm gonna do. This time I'm gonna remember to reset the meter. Right. So remember what we said, buff up, not taking flasks and food, etc. But you know, because we're just doing a guide. But this is what it's gonna look like. Popping all your good stuff. Runes already down. So remember, I don't have anything tracking my rune at the moment. Second rune down. So we have a rune up for the full duration of our opener. And now you're back into your basic rotation. Firing the Ice Lances when they come off, into your Frostbolt, Flurry Ice Lances. Alright, so my orb is already off cooldown, which is great, but we're gonna wait. So in the scenario there where I have that Ice Lance, I know I have it, so I'm gonna pop my Rune of Power so that my Ice Lance benefits from it. So when you know you have your Rune and Orb coming up, don't be afraid to bank Ice Lances, Flurries, etc. to the point that you know they are not going to fall off. But that is pretty much everything that you need to know. Now this is gonna be absolutely subject to change for Shadowlands when it eventually releases. As you can see in the damage meter there, Frost Mage is pretty OP. So, in conclusion, your Frost Mage is quite a simple class to play. And you're not going to be punished that hard for making minor mistakes. Now, you can argue that the Frostbolt flurry into double Ice Lance maybe not as effective as it used to be, because if the Frostbolt consumes one of your Shatter debuffs on the target, obviously it's not going to do the same amount of damage as your Ice Lance would. Okay. Now, one thing that you always need to remember is that you will never, ever, ever cast an Ice Lance if it hasn't procced or if it isn't directly after a flurry. Okay? The reason for this is, and we'll demonstrate, it does no damage. Okay? It crits for around 900 to 1k for me. Okay? Sounds okay, doesn't it? No, it's not. Watch the difference in your Ice Lance after a flurry or a proc. Okay, so we're watching for a proc. Right, here's the flurry. Ice Lance. Ice Lance. After your flurry, because you have your Shatter debuff on the target, your damage is tripled. So you never cold cast an Ice Lance on your target. Okay. Guys, I think we've covered pretty much everything here for your DPS rotation. We could go into really extreme stuff where you can, you could blink and Cone of Cold, etc., and things like that. There probably will be little things that you can do like that just to give you a little bit extra, but it's quite complex. So what we'll say is we're going to Frostbolt, fire off those Ice Lance procs. Given the opportunity, you're going to bank your Ice Lances and a flurry if you have it when you know you're about to pop your Rune of Power and your orb. Now, it's important to remember that even though your orb is off cooldown, you will be tempted to use it. It's a common mistake. Now, think about the amount of Ice Lances that orb is going to generate and the amount of extra damage that you're going to get while that orb's up. The reason you're going to wait for the Rune of Power is because you want the extra 40% damage from the benefit that the Rune of Power gives you. So no matter how tempting it is to cast your orb because it's off cooldown, do not do it. We're taking a whiteout on our neck piece for the reason we want our orb to line up with our Rune of Power. So our orb is on a 1 minute cooldown, but our Rune of Power is on a 45-second cooldown. Now, as you just seen, even though my orb was on a 60-second cooldown, it came off cooldown before my Rune of Power. So I was actually waiting on the Rune of Power, not the orb. But without whiteout, that would not happen. I would have 15 seconds of downtime waiting for the orb cooldown to catch up with Rune of Power. Okay, so let's go over the rules one more time. No casting Ice Lance cold. Ever. Only if it procs, and then you cast 2 Ice Lances right after your flurry. Okay? Rule number 2. Never cast your orb unless you have a Rune of Power on the floor. Be patient and wait for it. It will be a damage increase. Okay? Number 3. Do not cast your Rune of Power just before you pop all of your cooldowns. You will waste it. You will instantly place a Rune of Power on the floor when you pop your Icy Veins. Okay? That is crucial. Make sure you do not make this mistake. Recently, it was patched that Vision of Perfection will no longer proc a Rune of Power when the ability activates. So our go-to now is gonna be Condensed Life Force, because it's just perfectly lined up with everything else. Now, I haven't been able to write a macro that will pop my Condensed Life Force when I use my burst macro. Okay? So, you're going to have to add that as a keybind. You're only going to be using it once every three minutes. So, you know, it doesn't need to be right on the tip of your finger. Okay? So, that is our Frost Mage, guys. That is our Frost Mage. I really hope this guide was useful. I hope it was helpful. I do want to say that everything that we've just covered on this DPS rotation is going to be subject to change. Obviously, we have covenants to consider. We have new gears to consider, new trinkets to consider, possibly new stat priorities to consider. The main thing is that this DPS guide will pull you through the pre-patch and you will compete on your damage meter with your buddies. Okay? Following the very, very, what I refer to be strict rules with Frost Mage, little mistakes all add up. So try not to make the little mistakes, and especially don't make the big one of pre-casting a rune before you pop your burst CDs. Okay, guys, it's been a pleasure bringing this short guide to you. I hope you appreciate it. Please do leave your likes and comments in the description below. We're really trying to get ourselves up to the 1,000 subscriber mark. Really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button and help us out. We're moving fast. Things are going really well, and you have my promise that I will be putting a lot of effort into the future videos. We even made a thumbnail, guys. We even made a thumbnail. For a change. Took me a while, but you know, I figured it out. We got there. So in closing, guys, once again, thank you very much for your very kind support. And one thing I would like to say is I'd really appreciate it if you could drop by to the stream. It's twitch.tv/Crix123. All of my in-game goodies, as I refer to them, will be available to my Twitch subscribers on my Discord. There will be, all of my macros will be there. All of my UI options will be there. Everything that I use myself in-game to raid is going to be available for you guys in my Discord. It is only going to be available to subscribers, guys. So if you have that Twitch Prime available, don't forget to save it. Good luck with this guide, guys. Thank you so much. Leave me some of your comments in the comments below. I really appreciate the support, guys. Thank you very much. This is me saying good night, my guys, and I will see you in Shadowlands, and if not Shadowlands, in the next video that's requested. See ya.